The Real Estate Photography Podcast is brought to you by tourbuzz.net, high-definition virtual tour and photograph hosting, now with interactive floor plans. Sign up for your free trial today.
Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Photography Podcast with Mike Muriello. First, I'd like to start by saying thank you for being so accommodating with my summer travel schedule. There's a lot of traveling and a lot of shooting. I've been gone for the past month shooting interiors. I'm home for about 3 days, and then I'm going to head out again and do that for about another month. So I just wanted to say again, thank you. So there's a lot of good material that can come about that applies to real estate photography for what it is that I'm shooting. And one of the first things I thought about was, since we're traveling so much, and if you've ever taken a plane and tried to bring your camera equipment, you might run into a little bit of a problem. So something you might want to think about is, especially when it comes to what we do, which is shooting interiors or real estate, you always need to be thinking about your tripod, because that is a crucial component to what you do. Now, the tripod, depending on how it could be small, depending on how small, how big, it is a subjective thing that if you're in the United States, your TSA screeners are going to evaluate. Anything that is quote unquote a club-like object that could be used as, say, a bat, they are not going to allow on a plane. Now, I've talked to many photographers. They've had no problems getting tripods on the plane. I've talked to other photographers who, as soon as they go towards security, they're questioned. They say, no, we're sorry, you're going to have to check that. You're going to have to ship that. You can't bring that on the plane. So if you're doing a lot of interior photography and you're getting on planes, or let's just go ahead and say you want to take a vacation and you don't want to bring your tripod, you're going to have to find some sort of alternative unless you want to be worried that you might not get through security with it. And that's the first thing that I thought about bringing to the podcast, which was check out a Low Pro Roller. That is, I'm not trying to say it twice. It really is called a Low Pro. That's the brand name. Then it's a Pro Roller. And there's a couple of different versions of the Pro Roller. And it's essentially a custom suitcase that conforms to airplane carry-on luggage standards. And it has a tripod mount built into the top. As you can see right there, it is a lifesaver, an absolute lifesaver. I cannot speak highly enough of this sort of product. Now, I was completely fine with my previous suitcase arrangement. If you go back to another podcast, you'll see how I basically gutted a suitcase, padded it, and I really like that. And the problem is, there is no built-on tripod. Now, this tripod mount on this one, it's really built for flashes and smaller cameras and smaller lenses, but you can push it. This is a D3 with a 70-200 on top of it. You know, it leans forward a little bit. I mean, most tripods, first of all, can't even handle the weight of those two things, let alone a suitcase tripod. So it's leaning up against leaning on top of a railing that gives it a little bit of support. And that works, and it works really well. It can handle a D3 and say a 24-70, not a problem. As long as you have weight inside of the suitcase, it'll be fine. I feel like I'm rambling here a little bit, but I'm just trying to say it's a really, really good alternative. So here's a couple of things that I was just going to say is, for example, this is something that you can do with the Low Pro Roller. I think the one I have is the X200, but I'll go into that in a minute. Essentially, you know, it keeps this nice, chest level shot. This chest level angle works out really well. But the most important thing in this is the shutter speed. And if you look in my upper right, you can see that this is shot at 1/80th of a second. Now, if anyone knows, even though we're at 38 millimeters, 1/8, that's a little slow. That's cutting it close, because the magic number 1/60th, you know, you're 1/3 stop away from that. You're going to want to make sure that you're either well lit or you're well stabilized, or both. You know, it's your call. You're doing the picture taking. So this is something that really comes in handy. And just remember, no hassles at security, fits in the overhead compartment, and it's all built into one. So if you have your equipment on you, you have your tripod on you. You can also use it as a light stand, as I said. Same thing over here. Different shutter speed. I think now we're at 1/250th of a second. There's way more ambient light coming in this place, but the point remains the same. And here's another one, just a different sort of take on, absorbing the ambient lighting. Now we're at 1/100th here. We're a little closer when it comes to maintaining our sharpness, because we're at 48 millimeters, about 50 millimeters. So that works out fine. And the main thing, and you probably saw from that first picture, I'm trying to take a picture of downtown Atlanta. So I'm waiting for the sun to go down, and I have to do a long exposure. And I'm at 0.6 of a second here. You can't do this handheld. It's not going to work. It's quite a long exposure. So if you're traveling to someplace and you want to use a tripod, and you're not too sure if you're going to get through security with it, and I'm going to say this too, it's also one less thing to carry. If you travel a lot, the more things you have, the more it bogs you down. This is one less thing you have to worry about. And then what I was going to say is, if you want to look real quick, this is the X200 right here. I just hopped to Amazon's website, and then this one is the X300. They ain't cheap. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're not cheap. But more importantly, look at the product dimensions to see what's going on. See if it conforms to your TSA standards or your carry-on luggage standards. The X300, along with being more expensive, is bigger. So those are some things to think about. Which one's right for you? I know that in mine, I have 2 full-frame camera bodies, 4 or 5 lenses, 4 flashes, batteries, radio triggers, memory cards. I mean, I've had no problem with making space work out with the X200. So that's all I really have to say about that. But that's just something to think about. If you're traveling, don't want to take a tripod, for whatever reason, consider this case. All right, thanks for listening. Have a good one.